Chu Ting wakes up in a bedroom in the arms of a lady and he is shocked by how he got into such a situation. The lady was attempting to sleep with him, but the drug she gave him quickly wore off. Chu Ting begins to wonder if he got reborn because as far as he can remember, 300 years ago, he accidentally entered the fairy world, after which he began his cultivation journey. He worked so hard during those years to become a swordsman cultivator, but when he was about to reach the realm of eternity, he unexpectedly opened a hall of time and space and returned to Earth when he was 17. He quickly leaves the room and goes outside. On getting outside, he feels glad that he will be seeing his family again after a very long time. However, he notices something strange as he looks around the city. He sees that women are in charge of every activity and are with roles and responsibilities that men take in a normal world. He heads to the library to find out why things turned out this way. He discovers that in ancient times, an event occurred that altered women's physiology, making them stronger and smarter. In this world, women are superior to men, and in fact, they chase men as opposed to men chasing women. He finds this very absurd and hopes that it's not the same with his family too. He heads home and sees his father taking care of the home. Lin Yantu, his father, is surprised to see him since he said he was going to visit his friend and would be returning late. His father perceives the scent of a woman's perfume on his body and starts to rebuke him, telling him about a young boy that was recently raped. His mom is out on a business meeting, so he leaves his father and goes to check on his sister, Chu Xiao, in her room. He finds her watching porn and he feels irritated. After a while, she dresses up for a hangout with her friends and tells Lin Yantu that she would be coming back late. Her father doesn't hold her back since girls have to go out and make money for themselves and can't be tied down like men. Chu Tianan returns home from work and Chu Ting becomes excited to see his mom again. He observes how his father is acting towards his mom and finds it very awkward and disgusting that his mom is the breadwinner of the family while his father is just with the responsibilities of a wife. He wonders if this is how he would end up too. He can bear the sight, so he leaves his parents and goes to his room. In his room, he opens his drawer and sees several letters. Then he realizes that he is the school flower of his secondary school. All the girls want him. He finds this irritating and becomes determined to cultivate as soon as possible, so he can leave this strange upside-down world and return to his original world. He starts his cultivation practice, and after a while, his senses become sharpened. Suddenly, his sister calls him and tells him that she is in trouble. Some ladies are holding her hostage at a bar, and they tell him to bring the black bag under his sister's bed immediately if he doesn't want her hurt. He picks up the bag and heads there immediately. He is not going to let anyone mess with his family. On getting there, he gives them the bag which, unknowingly to his sister, contained a huge sum of money. His sister is released, and as they turn to take their leave, the head of the assailants, Zhu, stops them. She admires Chu Ting and tells him to stay back while his sister leaves. His sister tries to defend him, but he steps in and slaps Zhao when she begins to talk naughty. She tries to hit him, but he resists her. She then orders her ladies to attack him, but he beats them all in a snap. He and his sisters start to leave, however. Zhou brings out a gun and threatens to shoot him, and while Chu Xiao begs, a lady walks in. She has been enjoying the scene. Chu King recognizes her. It's the lady from the beginning when he got reborn, Chengxi. She tells him that she runs the bar. She then tells Zhu to leave while she handles the rest. But while Zhu tries to protest, she orders that they take her away and cut her feet and hands. Chengxi admires him too and wants to make him her boyfriend, but he tells her that he isn't interested. She starts to compare how weak men are to women, and this causes Chu Ting to suggest they play a game together to test who is stronger. The deal is that if he wins, she won't disturb him anymore, but if she wins, he will become her boyfriend. They soon begin the game. While women in this world are extraordinary and see men as insignificant, Chu Ting seeks to prove that he isn't an ordinary human. He unleashes his strength and wins her. Feeling intimidated, she offers that if he becomes her husband, no other woman in the city will be able to lay their hands on him. Women are the pillars of the world, and as a man, he will end up taking care of a woman's wings anyway. However, he turns down the offer in strong support of men and leaves with his sister. Chengxi finds him amusing seeing that he is very different from all other men, and she continues to have an interest in him. As soon as Chu Ting returns home with his sister, he continues his cultivation practice, so can quickly reach his true strength. The next day at school, he sees his best friend Lin Dong. However, when he notices that he is acting feminine, he gets irritated and makes an excuse to go away from him. In the class, he sits by his desk, frustrated about still being in this absurd world. Songja Oran, the class president, comes over to him to ask about his well-being, but another girl gets jealous and bullies her off. However, Chu Ting pushes her away, and it almost leads to a fight before Yi Mao, Chengxi's brother, appears and stops them. them. Yimao takes Chu Ting outside and apologizes for what his sister did to him the previous day. Chengxi had drugged Chu Ting while she gave him a lift in her car and took him to her bedroom. After school, as Chu Ting walks home, Chengxi stops her car and tells him to get in for the sake of his family. He gets in the car and she drives off. After a while, he warns her about messing with his family. However, she tells him that she wasn't threatening him, but only wants to help with his parents' business. She later asks him if he practices old martial arts, but he lies to her, telling her that it is already known that men cannot cultivate, so there's no way he would be able to practice martial arts. Suddenly, they are hit by an oncoming vehicle which causes their car to tumble. Chu Ting gets injured, but still manages to save Chengxi. Some bunch of females appear with clubs in their hands and start coming towards them. Chengxi gets offended and starts to fight against them for hurting Chu Ting. Chu Ting, feeling underestimated again, joins in the fight to prove that he isn't as weak. After beating all of them, Chu Ting attempts to start going home before his dad becomes worried, but Chengxi receives a call in which she is told that her mom was also assaulted and got hurt. She becomes teary and begs Chu Ting to stay with her. Chu Ting considers the situation and concludes that the attacks on both her and her mom didn't occur by coincidence. Chengxi fears that her mom would die and her aunt would kick her out of the Yi family. Chu Ting tries to calm her and then follows her home. On getting home, Chu Ting is stopped at the gate from entering on the order of Chengxi's aunt that no one except Chengxi should be allowed in. Chu Ting identifies himself as a doctor who has come to check on Chengxi's mom. They dive in wondering how a man got to be a doctor and still do not allow him to enter. Luckily, Chu Ting studied medicine while he was in the fairy world. He starts to diagnose the health problems of the security agents just by looking at them, and they become shocked. They then allow him in, but when he and Chengxi make their way in, Chengxi's aunt, Yimai, crosses them and tells Chu Ting that he has to prove himself before he can enter the Yi family. She calls on her daughter Yimai to test him if he is skilled or not. Yimai does this so she can have an accusation against Chengxi. She wants to tempt Chengxi to help Chu Ting while Yimai harms him, which is against the rules of the Yi family. Maier asks that Chu Ting would make love to her throughout the night if she wins him in a fight. Chengxi tries to protest, however. Chu Ting agrees to it and tells them to get started with the fight. Maier makes the first move to attack him, but he dodges it and knocks her out in one hit. Yimai is shocked and starts to rant. He and Chengxi then head into the house to meet Chengxi's mom. On getting to her room, Chengxi's mom, doubting he can help her, tells him to excuse them. He quickly diagnoses her situation in one glance, which gets her attention and makes her demand that the others leave the room while she talks with him alone. She suspects that he was sent by the Lai family and asks what his intention is for Chengxi. However, he tells her that he is not from the Lai family and is just a friend of Chengxi. She believes him and shows him her wound. Chu Ting is shocked by how worse the wound has become. Though she can resist it now, it would lead to damage to her internal organs in 5 days. He then places his hand over the wound and starts to absorb it. However, he can't absorb it all at his current level. Chengxi's mother becomes relieved and appreciates him for helping. On his way home, he looks at the wound he absorbed in his palm. However, can't eradicate it at his current level. He knows an elixir from the fairy world that is used for handling stuff like this, but wonders if it will be available in this world too. The next day, he arrives at school and sees Tang Xian playing basketball, with all the boys admiring her. Tang Xian used to be his first love in preparatory in his original world, but she doesn't know him in this world. She suddenly walks up to him asking him to play basketball with her. He agrees and snatches the ball from her. She tells him to compete with her, and if she wins, he will become her boyfriend, but if she loses to him, she will do whatever he wants. The game starts. She collects the ball and quickly scores her first point. Chu Ting is shocked. She gets the ball in her possession again and tries to score another point, but he blocks it and collects the ball. He tells her it's his turn and goes on to score a point by jumping from an unbelievable distance. He wins and asks her out on a date, but she replies that he needs to become stronger if he wants a date with her. Later, at Yi family's mansion, Chengxi asks him how she can reward him for saving her and her mom. Chu Ting thinks of some silly thoughts and smiles, and tells her to give him some time to think. However, he made some progress in his pure aura and spiritual body when he helped Chengxi's mom with her wounds. He becomes determined to completely heal Chengxi's mom next time, so he can fully awaken his spiritual body. As he walks home, Lai Yui crosses him and threatens him to stay away from Tang Xian. However, Chu Ting ignores him. This gets Lai Yui annoyed, and he tries to lay hands on him, but Chu Ting dodges it and beats him and his female bodyguards. Chu Ting wonders why Tang Xian plans to marry such a stupid guy, and thinks of a way to investigate the matter. He remembers Chengxi's reward offer and decides to ask her for a private investigator. Chu Ting waits at the bar for the private investigator. A young lady named Chen Huahua approaches him and introduces herself as the investigator. Chu Ting can't believe his eyes. He thinks she's underage. Chen Huahua asks about his relationship with Chengxi and begins to flirt with him, telling him to be her boyfriend. Chu Ting gets embarrassed and goes straight to the reason he came. He asks her about Tang Xian's family. She tells him that Tang's family is one of the huge families in the city and they own most of the city's large business corporations. but recently they've had some problems which caused their financial status to become unstable. The Lai family proposed a marriage between Lai Yuwei and Tang Ziyan if the Tang family wants them to assist in solving their problems. Chu Ting is surprised as Tang Ziyan never mentioned these to him in his past life. He then asks Chen Huahua about alchemy, wondering if alchemic families also exist in this world. To his surprise, Chen Huahua tells him that the Tang family is one of the alchemic families and they specialize in elixirs and medicines. He then asks her for more information. She tells him about the two known alchemy types, the common alchemy which works by using extraordinary internal power to prepare elixirs, and the other which uses spiritual power. She tells him the second alchemy type is completely out of her scope, and he wonders if there are people like him also in this world. He tries to ask her for more information, but she tells him she would only answer if he goes with her for dinner. Chu Ting follows her to a small eatery. He becomes shocked when she orders pork skewers and beers, and also finds out that other women are ordering the same. He soon remembers that this world is the reverse of the original after all. Chen Huahua soon gets drunk, and he carries her home. He places her on her bed, and as he tries to take his leave, she grabs him and tells him to stay with her. After she has slept, Chu Ting takes her phone and starts to search for more information. He opens a confidential transaction document and sees an auction house where rare items are auctioned. He thinks of something that could be worth a lot in this world, which he can auction to make a lot of money. Some days later, he practices cultivation and obtains a spiritual rock. Spiritual rocks are known to make cultivation rhythm faster and aid in practicing old martial arts. They can be obtained through the veins or cultivating eternity. There are no spiritual rocks in this world, so he plans to auction this one. At Chenxi's family residence, he completely heals Chenxi's mother, and she promises to return the favor whenever he has any problem. As he goes home, he reasons that he needs to cultivate as much as he can to revive his spiritual body. Suddenly, Chenxi stops him and kisses him, as a little present for healing her mom, and promises to give him the complete present someday. Chu Ting gets home and continues his cultivation process until he finally revives his spiritual body. He summoned a sword in the process. His sister suddenly barges into his room. Being naked, he quickly covers himself and hides the sword. His sister apologizes and leaves immediately, thinking he was masturbating. Chu Ting dresses up and goes to the auction house to sell the spiritual rock. When Jia Yu, the successor of the auction house, sees the spiritual rock, he offers to pay a huge amount immediately. As Chu Ting returns home, he reasons that if he can create a huge monopoly of businesses from this, it'd just be a matter of time before he rules the auction and the martial arts world. He receives a message from Huahua asking to have a drink together, and as he heads there, someone suddenly attacks him. He summons his sword and makes multiple slashes on the stranger very quickly. The stranger pleads for his life and confesses that Lai Yuwei sent him. However, Chu Ting kills him and becomes determined to annihilate the Lai family. He continues walking and suddenly, he feels a thumping in his heart. He begins to notice that his body is getting hot and his vision is blurring out. He manages to head to Huahua's house and soon wonders why he came there. He suddenly becomes aroused, and on seeing Huahua, he kisses her. He is surprised at why he is feeling this way and apologizes to her. Huahua, however, tells him to continue, and they both soon make love to each other that night. The next day, Tang Ziyan comes looking for him in class. She tells him to have lunch with her, and soon she perceives a woman's scent on him. She ignores it and tells him to come along anyway. Others begin to wonder why a campus queen would invite Tang Ziyan for lunch. On their way, Tang Ziyan asks to hold hands with him, and he agrees. She begins to blush. Tang Ziyan was raised to be an heiress and has always had to carefully plan who she socializes with. However, since she met Chu Ting at the court, she's had a strange feeling that he is someone important to her. She is loving him already and feels secure and comfortable anytime they are together. This feels strange to her, and she doesn't know why she feels this way. At the cafeteria, Chu Ting orders exactly what she loves, and she wonders how he knows. As they talk together, he notices two strange ladies walking in. He leaves the table and goes to eat the food. Suddenly, the two ladies bring out their daggers and attempt to attack Tang Ziyan. However, Chu Ting throws a hot plate of food at one of them. He gets stabbed by the other, but he throws her off with his power. He then gets into physical combat with them and beats them both. Tang Ziyan is surprised. She asks him if he belongs to an ancient martial arts family, but he says no. He says they should get out of the cafeteria immediately as it isn't safe there anymore. On their way going, he starts feeling weak due to the injury from the stab. Tang Zian offers to send him to the hospital, but he says the wound is not a major one and would heal up by itself. Chu Ting is surprised that he could be hurt by the two mediocre assassins and reasons that he needs to start making spirit artifacts for defense. Tang Zian tells him that her family is known for producing medicines, but the family recipe got stolen a month earlier, and a few other medicinal families joined forces to pressure them. She thinks it has to do with the Li family. He tells Tang Zian that he could fix her family problems and says they just need to make another formula for medicines, but she tells him that it's not easy to make formulas. He tells her that after the auction in 2 days, her family will notice him, and they can then go into details from there. He suddenly feels a thumping in his heart again. He perceives that the spirit energy he marked Chengxi with has been removed. He leaves Tang Zian and quickly calls Huahua to track Chengxi's location. He then calls Jia Yu to help him with a ride. Jia Yu soon arrives and they start following the target Huahua sent to him. Jia Yu chases as hard as possible and they soon see a van carrying Chengxi. Jia Yu forces the van to stop by hitting it with his car. Chu Ting comes out and beats all the agents in the van at once. As he tries to open the trunk of the van, a sudden blast hits the van and pushes him away from it. He is shocked at this level of power and wonders if this world has its spirit cultivators. 2 men from the Quan Zhen sect appear and compliment his skill. They ask him to join their sect, but Chu Ting turns down the offer, calling them failures. He insults them more and they get very angry. One of them brings out his weapon, a salamander rod, and attacks Chu Ting, but Chu Ting counterattacks with his sword and breaks his weapon. He gets even angrier and attacks with a fiery punch. However, Chu Ting cuts off his hand. On seeing this, the other guy gets angry, but before he could take any action to defend his subordinate, Chu Ting kills him. He then tries to use his powers to attack Chu Ting, but Chu Ting stabs him before he knows it. Chu Ting then goes to the van to wait Chengxi. She sees him and tells him they have to leave immediately before the 2 senior Taoists arrive, but he calms her and tells her everything is fine. He asks her if she has an idea of who kidnapped her, and she says she suspects it's the Li family. She also tells him that other small families have been creating problems for her family too, and Chu Ting reasons that it must be because of the upcoming auction event. There's a high chance for rare treasures to appear, and they want to disrupt other families from getting the news. Chengxi invites Chu Ting to her house so her mom can thank him for saving her, and he agrees to go with her. On getting to Chengxi's residence, they meet the Yi family having a secret meeting. Chengxi's mom tells him to have a seat, but one of the family members protests against it. He tells them he is not there for the secret meeting and brings out a spiritual stone. He says he came to talk about business instead. He gives them the spirit stone and tells them to check it. Not knowing its value, they think it's a random stone, but Chu Ting tells Chengxi's mom to exercise her internal strength and feel its flow. She does this and immediately feels a surge of energy. She is surprised and asks how much he would sell it. However, he tells her it's not for sale yet, as the price would be set at the upcoming auction. He then tells them he wants to give them a talisman. He made that provides protection and another that boosts combat strength for a short period. They are shocked and ask him for the reason he is helping them, and he says it's because Chengxi is his friend. Chu King's real plan is to set up his business empire in the city with the help of the Yi family. He gets back home and meets his second aunt, named Chu King, who tells him she came to talk about his arranged marriage. He tells her that he is still in college and marriage can wait until after his graduation, but his aunt debunks his words. She goes on to trash-talk everyone in his family. This gets him pissed, and he hits the table in annoyance. His aunt stands up to leave but still reminds him about getting married off soon. He insults her and heads to his room. On getting to his room, he calls Chengxi and asks for a favor. After a while Chu Ting's aunt enjoys and spends time with some men at the bar. Chengxi orders her agent to get her leg and rip out a kidney too. Meanwhile, that night, Chu King spends the whole night making protective artifacts for his friends and family that help him immediately know when the wearer is in danger. The next morning, he gives his father and sister the protective pendants he made for them. At school, he sleeps off in the classroom, having stayed up all night to make artifacts. The teacher sees him and tells him to go and answer the question on the board. He wonders how he would solve this when he didn't even pay attention in class. He then remembers Song Chorin, one of his classmates, teaching him in his past life, and he accurately solves the question on the board. Everyone, including the teacher, is surprised to see him solve it, even though he was sleeping throughout the lecture. This causes the teacher to make him the class representative. After the class, Shu King places his head on his desk to prevent others from seeing him as he makes a new talisman. His best friend suddenly taps him and he quickly stops. He then gives the talisman to him for his protection. His friend tells him about the upcoming school sports events in 2 days and asks if he would join. Shu King says that he isn't interested, but his friend manages to persuade him eventually. After a while, a lady named Ling Wenner comes looking for Shu King. She is the school idol that sings and plays the piano. She invites him to come along to a party hosted by a middle school friend, telling him that other middle school friends would also love to see him. After she leaves, Shu King goes to meet Tang Xian in her class and sees her doing her homework. She has been finding it difficult to solve the question, and Shu King offers to put her through. It's the same question he solved in class a while ago. After teaching her, he tells her to come with him, and on getting outside, he gives her one of the protection artifacts he made. Back to the class, Shu King decides to make 30 more artifacts before the bell rings so he can take them to the Yi family as he promised. After a while, the bell rings and he packs all the artifacts he's made into his bag. He thinks of heading to Chenxi's place, but his friend suddenly taps him and asks if he would love to hang out with them later at night. He declines and heads to Chenxi's house. Chenxi is so glad to see him again. She had been missing him. He gives her the protection artifact too, and while she wonders what it is for, he throws a glass cup at her. Suddenly, the talisman activates an energy barrier automatically which blocks the cup from hitting her. She gets excited and kisses him. She desires to sleep with him as a gift, but he tells her he's got business elsewhere and would come back to see her. He leaves and goes to Huahua's house. He meets her sleeping and wakes her. On seeing him, she becomes excited and hugs him. After she sleeps, Shu King discovers Huahua has been gathering information on the ancient martial arts family in the city for him. On his way back, he receives a call from his dad asking for his whereabouts so his mom can pick him up. After a while, his mom arrives and picks him up. His mom then asks him where he has been as she can perceive a woman's perfume on him. He lies to her and she advises him never to be alone with women. He receives a credit alert that Yi family just paid him 1.2 million yuan for the talismans he delivered to them. He reasons that if producing artifacts can make him this much, then manufacturing elixirs would make him a fortune. On getting home, he goes to meet Jia Yu and gives him a protection artifact also. Jia Yu appreciates it and tells him that this is the first time someone would genuinely act toward him as a friend. They both share their ugly pasts and drink until they get drunk. Shu Ting returns home and meets his sister trying to sneak into the house since it's late already. She sees him and complains about him returning this late and reeking of alcohol. She soon passes out and falls into his hands. She is drunk also. Shu Ting takes her to her room, and when he tries to leave, his sister drags him to the bed. She starts to mention the name of a guy and tries to kiss him. He also, not knowing what he's doing due to his drunken state, tries to make out with her, but soon comes to his senses and realizes it was his sister. He quickly stands up and leaves the room, promising himself never to drink again. The next day, he goes shopping for some clothes in preparation for the reunion party, and thinks that he would also need a car so he won't have to keep bothering Jia Yu. Then he sees one of his old classmates, Zhou Bu-kun. Zhou Bu-kun informs him about the reunion party he is organizing, but Shu King tells him that Ling Wenner already invited him 2 days earlier. Zhou Bu-kun is surprised that Ling Wenner invited him personally, and he leaves in anger. Zhou Bu-kun used to bully Shu King and spread lies about him when they were in middle school. Shu King heads to a car showroom to buy a car. Some ladies see him and begin to think that a rich lady must be taking care of him. At night, he arrives in his car for the reunion party. He sees Tang Xian and asks her about Ling Wenner, who invited him, but she says it's none of her business. She then tells him about a bet Zhou Bu-kun made with everyone that Shu King will come for the party dressed in a school uniform, and if he loses, he would invite everyone to eat for a week. Zhou Bu-kun has lost his bet and is now angry. Zhou Bu-kun announces to everyone that they will be preparing for the Olympics Games, and he plans on making a male basketball team. He invites Chu Ting to join, trying to ridicule them, but he says he is not interested. Chu Ting then feeds Tang Xian, which makes Zhou Bu-kun feel jealous. Lovingly, Tang Xian asks him if he would join the basketball team, and he tells her he will join if he kisses her. She suggests a French kiss instead, and everyone starts to admire them, calling them a couple. Chu Ting then invites everyone to eat dessert at a nearby restaurant, all bills on him. It has now taken everyone's attention from Zhou Bu-kun, who hosted the party and made himself the center of attraction. After a while, Ling Wenner arrives and Zhou Bu-kun delightfully goes to welcome her. However, she leaves him and goes to meet Chu Ting. Zhou Bu-kun is asked to play the piano, and he invites Ling Wenner to dance while he plays. Ling Wenner tells everyone she is dedicating the dance to her best friend, Chu Ting. Tang Zian starts to feel jealous that she is dancing for him. Meanwhile, Zhou Bu-kun gets angry that Chu Ting is talking to Tang Zian, while the girl he likes is dancing for him. He busts out in anger, however. Chu Ting ridicules his music, and he gets even angrier. He takes a fighting stance and demands an apology from him. Instead, Chu Ting tells him to say bye to his hands if he loses, and this makes him very afraid. He starts to sing a strange song, the Song of the Gods, which he learned when he was converting to a god in his past life. A mist arises behind him and Zhou Bu-kun gets terrified. However, Ling Wenner steps in to stop Chu Ting. Tang Zian also tells him to stop, so he won't have problems later. Chu Ting was so influenced by the wrath of the song that he almost forgot that he was not in heaven. He takes a cutlery knife and cuts Zhou Bu-kun's hair. He tells him he is no longer the old Chu Ting he could easily bully, and warns him never to appear before him again. Zhou Bu-kun leaves in shame, and the partying continues. After the party, Chu Ting perceives beer on himself and reasons that he can't go to his parents smelling like this. He calls his sister to tell her that he won't be coming home, and he decides to go to Huahua's house. On getting to her house, he meets her door open, and when he enters, he meets a man struggling with her. He tries to defend her, but soon discovers that it's her dad. Huahua's dad claims that she is owing him an amount of money, but she opposes, saying that it was he who used the money to gamble. He claims it's his right to collect money from her. She throws her debit card at him in anger, but he says he will get the money from her boyfriend. Huahua tries to defend Chu Ting by saying he is just a student with no money. On hearing this, her father grabs her and tells her to consider selling her body to rich boyfriends instead. Chu Ting tells him that he will pay the amount he asked for, but he must sign a document stating that he would end the father-daughter relationship between them and never disturb her again. He first rejects but later agrees when Chu Ting threatens to cancel the offer. After he signs the document, Chu Ting turns a mug into a weapon using magic and injures him with it as a warning for what could happen if he ever disturbs Huahua again. He kisses Huahua, and they both sleep together through the night. The next morning, Huahua wakes Chu Ting and tells him she has something good for him. She had prepared a good meal for him for breakfast. He wonders why she is treating him specially, and she tells him that she doesn't want to lose him. He tells her not to worry about that and be herself. After a while, he receives a message from Jia Yu saying he already sent the money he asked for, the same amount of money he wants to give Huahua's father. He then receives a message from Tang Zian asking him to come to the basketball club after school. At the basketball club, Tang Zian asks him about the new medicinal formula he told her he had. He gives her a piece of paper containing the formula he says would aid mages with magic upgrading. Tang Zian asks him if he trusts her. What if she runs away with it? However, he tells her that he doesn't care about the money, but genuinely wants to help her family. She tells him that she has fallen in love with him and goes on to kiss him. Later at night, in Chu King's house, his mother comes to meet him while he studies and asks if he likes any girl. His mother tells him that she is not bothered if he marries the person he loves, but her family won't allow him to do that, and she is powerless to protect him. She tells him that if he wants to marry the girl of his choice and get rid of the arranged marriage, he has to get into the National University. After a while, Chu King starts cultivating and summons his sword. He discovers that the sword seems different. It has rust on it, and if the rust doesn't disappear, there'd be huge consequences. He suggests that he might have gone through a different way during his cultivation process. He has to find a bowl for the sword as fast as possible and hide it because he could die if he doesn't. He receives a call from Jia Yu, yelling at him that he has been expecting him at the auction, which is about to start. Chu King had slept off and forgotten that there was an auction. He heads to the auction immediately to see if he can find any spiritual material that is suitable to make the sheath of his sword. At the auction, some ladies see him and start to mock him because of how he is dressed. One of the ladies hits him and tells him that this isn't a place where poor people like him can be. He challenges her and she gets angry. She tries to hit him, but he grabs her hand and inflicts pain on her. Jia Yu sees them and defends Chu Xing while he bans the ladies that mocked him from the auction house. Jia Yu tells him about how he intercepted someone from the Chu family in the imperial capital who came to buy information concerning his second aunt, Chu King, who lost one leg and a kidney. Chu Ting pretends that he doesn't know anything about the death of his aunt. Chengxi and her mom arrive at the auction house, and Chengxi is excited to see Chu Ting again. Chu Ting and Chengxi head to the room, and Chu Ting checks the auction items list. He discovers that the spiritual stone he told Jia Yu about appeared in the auction. He then goes to give Chengxi a drink, and while at it, she draws him close to herself. She seduces him, and they soon start to make out. Jia Yu badges in and sees them. He apologizes for interrupting and quickly leaves. Chengxi tries to continue, but Chu King tells her that they should suspend it till another time. He is uncomfortable with Jia Yu around. Meanwhile, Jia Yu never left. He was just behind the door. Chu King calls him in, and he brings the information about all the items in the auction. However, Chu Ting checks through and can't find any spiritual golden material from the gods that could free his sword. Jia Yu takes the information from him and shows it to Chengxi instead, saying Chu King's eyes are too high. Chengxi sees an item, and as she observes it, Chu Ting zooms in and realizes that the item has the same material he is searching for. Suddenly, he overhears Tang Xian's voice from the auction room, bidding a huge amount for an item. He wonders why Tang Xian bidded such an amount and decides to find out the item being auctioned. He discovers it's the Tang family formula, and he wonders who must have auctioned it off. Jia Yu leaves to find out while Chu Ting goes back to meet Chengxi. He asks her why she doesn't care about her family's activities, but only cares about fooling around men. He asks her how she would be able to solve the problems in the family when she doesn't even concern herself with family matters. After a while, Jia Yu returns to tell him how much was made on the spiritual stones. Chu Ting asks him who the buyer of Qiangjing is, the item he discovered to have the same material he is looking for. Jia Yu tells him that it's against the rules to reveal the buyer, but Chu Ting tells him that he is only concerned about the bronze container and not the wine itself. Jia Yu is surprised and wonders if the container was also a treasure he misjudged. Chu King leaves Jia Yu and heads back home. On his way, he sees a road sign indicating an ongoing construction ahead. He can't find any cars on the road and wonders why he didn't see any construction when he was coming for the auction. Suddenly, a thunder strikes and he is shocked by the powerful aura around it. He surges into a nearby bush and comes out of his car to find out what's happening. He sees a lady in a purple robe, an officer from the Jianwu department, approaching a woman and her subordinates. Chu Ting remembers that Chengxi had once told him about the Jianwu department. The government set them up due to the inability of the police to govern the ancient martial artist groups. The officer is there to obtain an auction item from the woman, claiming it belongs to her country. The woman asks the officer for a judgment order, the token to take action from the Jianwu department. The officer, pretending to want to bring out the order, suddenly attacks with a punch. She kills all of them in the blink of an eye and heads over to carry the auction item. Chu Ting discovers that it's Qiangjing, the same item he is planning to obtain. The lady discovers someone is spying and tells him to come out. He comes out and the lady launches an attack immediately. He blocks her attack and summons his sword immediately. She lands him a kick in the face, but doesn't affect him, and he gives her a powerful punch which sends her flying. The lady brings out a gun with a terrifying murderous aura and shoots at him. Thinking that he is dead, she takes the item and starts to leave. However, Chu Ting suddenly stabs her from behind and she dies. Chu Ting is severely injured from the bullet's murderous aura, so he quickly starts to cultivate to seal his wounds right away. He screams out in pain while he does. Will Chu Ting completely heal himself from the severe wound caused by the overwhelming aura of the bullet? Let us know if you want the next part in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video. Bye.